Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff. It's First Impressions Day today, and I don't think I can think of a German ship with a more colourful history than this one. It's time for First Impressions then. So it's Trumpeter's Schleswig-Holstein battleship 1908. So that is the year she came into service. So this is as she was when first being used by the German Navy. But she had quite a long career and actually fought in both World Wars. So if you don't know anything about her, a very abridged history. She was ordered in 1904, laid down the following year, was launched in 1906 and commissioned in the July of 1908, which is what this kit depicts. And now, she was involved in the First World War. She saw several naval engagements, most noticeably Jutland, where she got some severe damage from a heavy shell. And after the First World War, she was decommissioned. But because of the treaty, there wasn't many German ships left that they were allowed to use, but this was one of them. So they actually recommissioned her in the 1920s and got her back into service. Now, by the 1930s, they decided she was just way too long in the tooth, and of course Germany had a new state-of-the-art warship building plan, so she was actually converted into a training ship and most famously fired the opening shots of the European part of the Second World War when she bombarded the Polish base at Danzig. So that's probably what she's most famous for. Opening the European part of the Second World War. A lot of people consider it the first shots of the Second World War, but obviously the Second World War really started with the Japanese-Chinese War a few years earlier. So that is where she got to. In 1944, she was quite heavily bombed by the RAF, officially listed as sunk, but Germany says that they also scuttled her to make sure she couldn't be used. The Soviets raised her, salvaged her, and then beached her and used her for target practice for many years. And there are remains of the ship still about today, and I think the bell is in one of the museums, I think in Dresden, off the top of my head. So there you go, that's a potted history. The thing that I like about it, it's the three funnels, this sort of German look. You can see the evolution of German ships coming along here. So you can see the two-turret gun there that's not, it's not looking that dissimilar to what you're going to see in the 30s. But otherwise, you've got this really nice post dreadnought interwar sort of period with lots going on. It has that sort of industrial look. It's a really pretty time for ships globally, especially from the big leading powers. So this is a Trumpeter's kit. And this is the second release of this ship from Trumpeter. This is the 2019 kit. And in the 2018, the year before, they'd released her in her 1935 arrangements. And the most notable differences are the masts, the front one having more of a conning tower, not dissimilar to the Graf's Bay. That sort of look, although not quite as developed to that, and she loses one of the funnels. but I think she looks better in this configuration personally. So the box is a nice corrugated box. We've got lovely artwork on the front showing her going down what I'm guessing is the Kiel Canal there. Yeah, nice little bit of artwork there. It tells us the length is 367.1 millimeters. The beam is 67.2 millimeters, and there's 470 plus pieces involved. That will include the photo etch, though. As we look on this side, we've got a top-down image of the ship with her wooden decks and her anti-slip decks, and we can see there's a stern gallery there. It shows us that we've got 3 lots of photo etch, one clearly doing all the railings, and we've got some decals. The ends depict what's on the front of the box, and then we've got 2 different views of her on the side box there, and some history. And what's it say? Displacement of 13,993 tons. So yeah, there we go. And if we look inside, we've got a corrugated box, so she's well packaged, as is always the case with Trumpeter. And we have a little bit of aftermarket for this kit, which we'll talk about later. But for now, let's focus on our instructions. Right then, we have standard Trumpeter instruction manual, separate paints, and a little book leaflet there that's got some of their other kits. Unfortunately, most of that's Russian, so I won't touch any of that, obviously. Right, so let's start with our instruction book. So we've got a landscape, black and white, stapled build manual. Tells us our kit number is 05355 and that we're dealing with a 1:350 scale model ship. We get the sort of read before assembly section, which is basically telling us things that we probably already know. Then there's some instructions on decals. Then there's a little key that's telling us what these all mean as we see them in the instruction book. You might not see all of them, it's just their standard key. And then when we open up, let me just zoom you out a little bit, we get our sprue map. You can see the part numbers, so that it is usable for cross-reference. But quite often these things here, see K, where you've got this tree of parts, quite often they've been nipped off and you don't get that great big bit of sprue. So what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 sprues, plus these parts, plus chain, plus decals, and plus 3 frets of photo etch. So that's all very nice, and a stand included. So we start step 1 with drilling out holes in the deck, and then we are, what's that we're making? Looks like some form of crane or boom. I'm sure we'll find out in a minute. Yeah, so a bit odd. So we're drilling out holes, then we're putting together the shaft line wings for the hull. We're building some form of winch or davit or something. Then we're making the 14 guns that'll go in the hull. I can understand making those sort of now, because we'll probably need to put those in before the decks go in, and making up funnels, or 2 of the funnels. There is 3. Interesting. Step 3, and we're pulling together the hull, so a 2-part hull with supports, deck supports and braces, and then we're making up the mast. How bizarre. So they've got this strange thing going on where we're building the ship, the main kit, and around that we're building all sorts of sub-assemblies. It's just weird. So we're building the deck guns there, and we don't need them. We're building more masts there, and we don't need them. It's just bizarre. Okay, so installing the hull guns, and there's plenty of them. What is there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 in total there. So they obviously all have to be painted up. So I would recommend that you either glue them into position so they're not movable, then you can paint them in position, or you paint the hull and the guns separately, then install them, paint the deck separately and install that, and do it that way, which is probably the smartest way of the paint, because it means you can paint the edge of the hull, which will be on the outside edge of the deck, and that gives you your margin anyway. So that's probably the way I would go. Then we've got the superstructure section, and we're mounting in more guns there. They look like polycaps, but I think they're probably little plastic fittings going in there. Step 5, and we've got separate bilge keels going on. People tend to have a love-hate relationship with those. I don't mind them because at least you don't get big, thick, chunky, triangular ones. Then we've got the shaft lines going in and the screws going on. And then masts being built up, absolutely not building them now. Delicate things like that with star-shaped yards, and they want you to build them and put them to one side until you're ready. No, not going to do that. More sub-assemblies. Main guns, looks like they are movable independently, so that's really fabulous. You don't get that often enough in kits, and Tamiya are terrible for fixing your positions for you. Then we've got all sorts of little structures being pulled together. You've got observation decks and things like that being pulled together and putting on the various railings, further building up the masts. Then we're jumping back to the superstructure. So for me, you'd miss all of that until you actually need them, and you'd go from doing those hull parts minus the rudder and the screws which are put on towards the end, and then go to this. So there is some reworking of the steps needs to be done. So we've got, what have we got? We've got hatches going on. We've got secondary armament going on as well, some of which we've made up earlier on. And then we're adding more structures into them, which includes ammunition lockers, support structures for other bits and pieces. I think we'll have another deck going across the top of those, but they look like they've all got detail on. Ventilator louvre on the sides and doors. Without doing any reference checks, no way of knowing whether it's accurate or made up. Yeah, and then we've got the sort of central deck that's actually spans the whole width of it. So we've got skylights already moulded into it, I note, rather than them being added separately. And it's likely that the boat chucks will be quite thick as well. So replacing those with photo-etch would be desirable, ideally. Then we're mounting the mast and doing more sub-assemblies. Ship's boats being built up. Nice to see we've got the steam engines there for the steam launchers. That's really nice. Yeah, it always looks. There's something about ship's boats that have got little smokestacks. I think they're quite nice. Several boats there though to go on, so we'll have to look at the paint instructions for those, because I doubt that they're right looking at the paint instructions, but we'll have a look in a minute. Then we've got the bridge sections being pulled together, and we've got more vents and winding gear and more lockers going on. Yeah, very nice. And some hand wheels for something. I'm not quite sure what they are for, to be honest. Then we're putting photo-etch railings on, quite complex shapes, so that's a lot of bending, so you might want to break some of that down into smaller sections, because you can see here we've got a length, a curve, a length, a bend, a curve, a length, a bend, another bend, another bend, another bend. You know, that's a lot in there, so you might want to snip it off. Also, I noticed that they've put a bending in the middle of the railing, which means that the railings must be wrong, because you'd have a stanchion in a corner, not you wouldn't expect chain to turn a corner. So yeah, you might end up chopping it about to make it work better, by the looks of it. And we've got photo etched incline ladders, so there's no option for plastic ladders, which suits me but doesn't suit everybody. Not everyone likes to do the photo etch, although incline ladders are fairly easy. More work on masts and the spotlight platforms. Then we're going right through building this mast. So I'm guessing we've built one of the masts and now we're building the other one. And then funnels. So, and photo etch tops for the funnels, or smokestacks, I should say. And then another one going together there. Quite a lot of detail going on to here. We've got little platforms, we've got spot lamps, separate railings. The railings are flared as well, so not always the easiest to do. You have to roll them in a particular way to be able to do that. But it does look like the photo etch is curved, which really helps. But getting the fluting can be a challenge if you've not got a lot of experience with photo etch. Then we're building main cranes, which also have photo etch railings. And then all these little sub-assemblies we've built up are being installed. So step 13 gets quite busy. I'd like that broken down a little bit more, so you can see what you're doing without all these arrow lines everywhere. But yeah, and more ship's boats being mounted, this time on davits. Yeah. Step 14, which I'd be doing, I'd have done already before we'd done all the stuff on the central superstructure, and we're putting in deck fittings. So I thought there's the crane that we built on step 1, which is going in here. We've got the chain going in. Looks like the bonnets are moulded in, but everything else, capstans and bollards and things, all seem to be separate. Spare anchor there. Flagstaff going in. And we've got the fair leads going in. We've got the coat of arms, which is photo etched, so that will be relief etched, so that'll be nice. And we've got the forward torpedo tube, which has a photo etch lid, so that's a nice touch as well. And then we've got these little bulbous parts on the bow there, which give it a lovely shape. It's quite unusual. Then we're doing step 15, and we're doing deck fittings at the rear. So that includes sort of the stern gallery section, and more fair leads, ventilators, rear anchor, which is centrally mounted, bollards, capstans, and the like. Then step 16, we're putting all the railings on, which is a good time to be doing it before you've installed the main superstructure, and you've got that on several levels, of course, which again gives you some nice interest. And we've got photo-etch boarding ladders. Looks like we've got some plastic life preserver rings to go on as well, so that's nice. And then we've got more deck fittings going on these wing decks here. And then they're showing us the photo-etch for the stern sort of half of the ship as well. So that's all good. Then in step 18, we put our main guns in and our central superstructure island, and build the stand, which I'd have built earlier, so you've got somewhere to put it while you're building it. So there we go, that's the instructions. With it looks like we've got a dreadful nameplate with the scale on. You know, we don't need to know it's 1/350 scale, and it says German Navy battleship. The trouble is that, you know, the designation is wrong, the grammar's wrong, it just spoils it. So you end up having to take it all off, and then you've got this strange space above it which looks a bit odd, so they're almost not usable. They sort of ruin it. Anyway, that's our instructions done. Let's have a look at the paint instructions. Right, painting and marking guide. I don't like the way that Trumpeter do this, because we don't get any paint instructions as we go through the instructions, where often it would be easier to see what's going on. So yeah, now there's so many Trumpeter paint instructions that I've seen that are wrong, that you get a bit dubious about all of them. So I don't know whether this is right or not without checking. So you need to understand what were the colours being used by the German Navy at that time, and go for what you think. So what we've got a cocoa brown anti-fouling. That's probably not far off, because it is quite a deep red, although it's shown as a lighter red here than it actually is. It's more of a rich reddy brown colour than this. Then we've got two different colours, the hull and the superstructure. Now that's also probably correct. That was quite typical of the German Navy. But again, just check that out, because they're actually showing it as two different colours, but then they're saying that is light grey, and then that is light grey mixed with light blue. So blue grey, light grey. So probably right, but I would urge you to have a look at the Colour Coat range of paints, where they've got good matches and the actual designations of the paint. Life Colour also do very good colours for German ships as well. Black tops on the masts, not sure that that's correct for this period. It is for 30s and 40s, but I'm not sure that it is for turn of the century. And I'm fairly sure that the ship's boats are wrong. They've got red anti-fouling lower hulls, and I think they should be black. But I might be wrong. I've got better knowledge of Second World War ships than turn of the century ships. And then when you look at this, they're saying, what colour are they going with there? Oh, that's odd. 68. RLM 74 grey, so a very dark grey for the tops of the guns. And that's the same grey, although they are saying it there. It's the same grey that they're using for the wing decks. So German steel decks. So this is wrong, because German steel decks are a different dark grey than vertical surfaces. So that would be vertical surfaces grey. That would be steel deck grey. They are subtly different. What they told us to do for the boot line, 33 flat black. That's wrong. It's a very dark grey. So not dissimilar to the steel deck grey. So yeah, paint instructions are not very accurate in terms of the actual colours they're calling out, although when you look at it, it's not far off, but the actual colours they're calling out are wrong. So do a little bit of research. Like I say, the Colour Coat website, if you have a look for their Bismarck set, they have a full list of colours, but do check your references for this period in time. So yeah, and then we've got what, gold propellers, and you really want to do them in bronze, to be honest. Yeah, okay, so painting guide as usual, could be a fair bit better really. Right then, decals. I just know my regular viewers are ahead of me on this. So what we've got is we've got the coat of arms that we can put over the top of the photo etch, assuming they've got the sides right. We've got the name of the ship to go on the hull, and then we've got the red stripes to go around the funnel tops. The decals are a bit rubbishy. They're a bit thick, and they've got a lot of margin, so you're going to have to do a lot of trimming to get rid of that margin, which on the coat of arms there, because it's going to show the margin's going to be greater than the width of the photo etch shield, and so you'll be able to see it. So you've got to trim it all off. It just becomes a bit of a nightmare job. So yeah, there you go. But there is no flags. None at all, not even national flag, the big white flag with the black eagle on. No. No signal flags, no Admiral on board flags. And what else is missing? Yep, depth markers. Every ship has depth markers, so why doesn't this have it on the decals? Just nonsense. As always with Trumpeter ships, the decals are pretty rubbish. So we have 3 sheets of photo etch. This is the first one. It's got some railings on it, and it's got this little crane that goes on the forecastle there. We can see the photo etch door for the torpedo tubes and the ship's wheel. So it's all very nicely done. The railings are all generic, but yeah, nicely done anyway. So this is the smaller of the 3, so let's have a look at the other 2. So the next one out has more railings and 1 or 2 sort of bits of frameworks and gussets and little bits and pieces like that. And then we have some little walkways, which I can't remember where they go. But yeah, they're nicely done. It's very delicate photo etch. Some of it's very small, but yeah, nicely done. Our final photo etch now, and we actually have 2 of these. So there's 4 frets in total, and we've got more railings and gussets, the incline ladders and boarding ladders, the railings there for the cranes, and then we've got the coat of arms, which is very nicely done. You could use the decal to give yourself paint instructions, but I'm sure you'll find it online anyway. And then there's the German eagle, with a swastika on, which is actually really nicely done, but you don't need it for the 1908 version. So clearly they had in mind that this would be used for the 35 version as well. But that's worth keeping because that is very nice, and you could use it on something like the Graf Spey, which doesn't come with a decent eagle. So yeah, very nice. So as I suspected, the parts on the big spider's legs have been removed and we've got them in a little bag. So let's have a look. So these are the second layer of superstructure that go underneath the shelter deck, and yeah, nicely done. So we've got no detail on the, I was going to say no detail on the ends, but we have here, we've got louvre. Most of it is louvre, and then 2 sets of double doors. There's no hose reels or anything like that on there, which there would have been. We've got doors and portholes on this one. Nothing on that side though, so I'm sure that's either it's right or they couldn't see what was on there. Yeah, lots of louvre on this. It's all nicely done, crisply moulded. Yeah, and you can either drill those out or you can paint them in gunmetal, and they look pretty good in gunmetal. Then we've got, this is slide moulded, so we've got little moulding seams all over this. You see it there, just in that light, and then there's another one there, and there's another one there. So there's 3 that I can see. So a lot of delicate seam cleanup on here. But yeah, lots of little doors on there, so that's all nice. And then we've got the armoured control position with its windows, which is also very nice. Nothing wrong with any of that. So next we have Sprue F2. We have 3 of these, and as you can see, it's mainly focused on the ship's boats. But we've got some ammunition lockers, ready-use lockers, yeah, and yards there, I think, or could be booms. And then we've got gun tub, I think, and what I think might be the pins for locating the guns. And then engine speed control. I know it's got a name, but I can't bring it to mind right now. The ship's boat is really nicely done, so there's no ejector pins on the inside, so I like that. Yeah, our cleanup is on the keel edge, so that's not so bad, although the sprue gates are quite thick, so you've got some thinning out to do in places. Then we've got our little boiler and steam engine there, and the funnel has been recessed, so they've 3D printed that, so there's a little recess in the top, which is a nice touch. If you fancy doing a diorama, there's nothing looks nicer than a little steam launch chugging along up to an anchored ship. You can get some little cotton wool smoke coming out of the top of there. It just makes a beautiful scene. There you go. I've got an idea as what I might want to do anyway. The top deck of the boat is lovely. They've got some lovely deck detail in there. That is very fine work, and I really like that. Yeah, that's really nice. So what I'll do is I'll take photographs as we go, and at the end you can see some close-up shots. The anchor chain in the kit is copper, so you'll want to chemically black it probably. And it's nice chain because, you know, at this scale you're not going to get stud chain. But it's nice because it's elongated, it's not round. Sometimes you get them and they're round and they just look dreadful. Whereas the slightly rectangular links look a little bit more authentic. So yeah, I quite like that. And then we have our superstructure, which is a single part. I'm just checking. again, slide moulded. We can see the slide mould seams there, which need to come off. Unfortunately, that's really close to a door. You can also see that where we've got this rounded edge, it's stretched the portholes a little bit. So you can see how they've been elongated. So you're going to want to fill those something hard like an epoxy putty, and then re-drill them. They're also different lengths, so they look a little bit odd. So a little bit of sort out there. Nice louvre depictions there though. Yeah, it's a bit scruffy at the bottom. There's quite a bit of seam and lip to clean up. Yeah, it's pretty messy underneath. Needs a good sanding smooth. Yeah, but otherwise it's okay. It's certainly bereft of detail. We've got no pipe work, no ducting or anything like that on there, and there absolutely would have been somewhere on here. So yeah, but they have got the little flares on the bottom of the superstructure, which are nice, and they've moulded in all the little skylights, which is good as well. So all in all, not bad, but there's a little bit of room for fine wire scratch building probably if you do some research. The deck is courtesan, so or the German equivalent. So that will be, it's an anti-slip rubberized deck basically. The boat chocks, you're not going to see them greatly once there's a boat on them, but they are a bit thick and chunky, so personally I'd want to replace them if I could. Stand, well, it's the later generic style of stand, so you know it's certainly not going to fit your hull because they've given you this sort of generic shape. So rather than it fitting the first model they designed it for and nothing else, it never fitted the first one either, so it simply doesn't fit any any hull. What you can do is put some foam tape on there so it does cradle into the shape a little bit, which looks a bit better if indeed you want to use it. So they are a bit thick and chunky and not everyone wants to use them, but they are there if you want, so you've got options. Next, Sprue has a lot of slide moulded parts. We know it's slide moulded because it's flat, so there's moulding tools coming that way. Yeah, so we've got the larger of the ship's boats, which has been nicely depicted with the slide moulding. We've got recessed detail on the top, and then we've got square and round windows on the side. Yeah, that all looks really nice actually. The deck is smooth, so I guess they're depicting it as a steel deck. Then we've got another armoured position. There is some slide moulding seam there to deal with. Some superstructure again, lots of ventilation louvre and doors. Another armoured position. And then we've got the superstructure, which has one of the mast mounts on it. Again, totally smooth because it's anti-slip. All very nice, no issues with any of that. It's just snip them off and away you go, so pretty good. Okay, next Sprue, we've got 3 of these and we've got all sorts of items on here. So we've got a main gun turret slide moulded right at the end here. So that's nicely done actually. It's got nice detail. We've got a door on the back. We've got rivet detail on the roof. We've got detail around where the blast bags would be attached. So all looks very nice. Then we've got ship's boats. We've got the turret bottoms. We've got the armour shields there for the secondary guns. Winding gear. The main guns and secondary gun barrels are all slide moulded and therefore have open ends, which is really nice. Then we've got our multiple gun positions for the hull guns. Davits, nicely done anchors, ballards. Fair leads are quite nice. The little rings are life preservers. And then we've got some detail on the searchlights, but they'll have to be painted, so you've not got glass fronts for those. So there's no clear parts in this kit. And then when we flip it over, I'm looking for any ejector pin marks on the inside of the boats, which we don't have. We have some very hefty sprue gates, but they're all on the top edge of that boat, whereas they're on the side edge there where you've got a lip. So if they can do it there, why haven't they done it there? That makes no sense. That's annoying. Yeah, all very crisp, all really nicely moulded. And the deck guns there are very nicely done as well. They certainly look the part. A lot of ejector pin points on the and heavy seam on the main cranes there. Yeah, a bit of clean up to do on those. There's a bit of work in there. And yeah, but nothing wrong with it. All very nice. Our next sprue has another eclectic mix of parts. We've got the bilge keels there, and they're nicely done. They've got a nice taper on them. Then we've got the two-part shaft line wings, which are quite chunky, and are going to be very chunky when two parts, but I'm sure that is probably right-ish, knowing Trumpeter. They're not always very good with hull dimensions. We've got a rudder there which is bereft of any detail whatsoever, so that will be wrong without doubt. And then we've got the braces for the hull there. Got some ballards. We've got the base for this this crane that goes on the forecastle. We've got our propellers, so 2 3 blades and a central 4 blade. Blades are nice and thin. We've got a little ship's boat there, which again nicely done, but you've got connection points, sprue gates on the lip again, which is a bit annoying. Jack staff there, flagstaff I should say, and a couple of either gun tubs or spotlight platforms. The only major ejector pin issue I can see is a couple in the underside of this searchlight platform here, which goes on the mast. So a little bit of filling to be done there. Yeah, otherwise not bad at all crisp, no flash, no sink, same as everything else we've seen, all nicely done. More parts now. We've got the smokestacks, the starfish for the masts, we've got the little hull bumps which are nice, and they've done that really well. They've done them as separate parts so they can use the hull for the 35 configuration by just omitting them, which is a nice touch. The masts are very fine. There's a little bit of flash on them, but a gentle scrape will sort that out. And we've got the hull of the big ship's boats launch that has we've already seen the slide moulded top for, and then there's a little funnel for it which has got an open end. We've got the forward bulkheads of the bridge there. Yeah, nicely done. We've got some nice texturing on some of these platforms for the smokestacks, and then we've got the whopping grey sign, which quite frankly is a bit ugly, and probably I wouldn't use it. And we've got probably, I think that whatever that is the tiniest part we've had in the whole kit. So from a part point of view, it's all fairly straightforward to build. Our penultimate sprue has decks on it. So we've got the main wooden deck here, and they've done a really nice job of the deck. I'm just trying to work out what we got. 1, 2, 3 plank shift on the deck, which is, you know, nice. Don't know whether that's correct or not. The only fittings moulded into the deck are skylights here at the back, which are nicely done. You give them a wash and they'll really stand out. The rear anchor bonnet, and then on the forecastle we've got some steel deck bits, the hawse pipe openings. Those castings are nicely depicted, and again the bonnets. So yeah, nice deck that actually, and then we've got the other 2 decks, which are totally smooth because they're anti-slip decks, and again we've got skylights on them, and that's pretty much it. You've got boat chocks here, so yeah, and again a bit thick and chunky, but easy to clean off because you've got a completely smooth deck, so not bad. The splinter shields are not bad in terms of thickness. There's no stanchion detail on the inside, so no ribs or anything, but personally I don't mind that at this scale. Yeah, not bad. Well, our last plastic parts now are our 2 hull halves, and the moulding is nice and crisp. Yeah, and there's not much in the way of distortion on the scuttles here. We've got hand irons on there as well as doors above the wing decks. We've got moulded on booms, which is a shame. Like them to be separate really. And then more hand irons around the anchor hawse pipe openings. And whilst the shape looks nice, I don't know how accurate it is, but that's where my nice comments sort of stop, because it's completely smooth, and you know, 1/350 scale you can absolutely put on the planking. So this is a riveted together ship made out of steel plates. So where is it? You know, do it, show it. So whilst it's okay, it's a bit lackluster really. Probably the most disappointing bit of the kit. Now before we sum up, let's just quickly talk about aftermarket. There is some aftermarket about. The most useful is the master set of barrels, which gives you brass barrels for secondary and deck guns, and nice turned aluminium ones for the main guns, with resin mounting points. So they're a nice upgrade on the plastic ones, because they've got the little steps in and they look more accurate, but they're not a must-have. So you know, the plastic ones are nicely moulded, it's just the shape isn't too accurate. So that's a nice little addition if you can. And wood decks. There's several brands of wood decks out. This is the unfortunately named Never Set brand, which is unfortunate because they're actually really good decks and they don't come up at all. And they've also gone with a 3-shift pattern on their deck, so I'm guessing that's probably right. They also give you a masking sheet, which covers not just the wood decks, but all of the other decks as well. So you can paint your decks, put your masking down, and then paint everything else in one go, so that's really handy. There is already chemically blacked chain, although I don't like the shape of the chain quite as much as the kit one, so I'll probably still chemically black that and use it myself. There's at least 4 brands in total, and at least another 3 brands of wood deck, and I think there's one other that offers the masking. I got this because I like the masking. I have used their deck before. I used it on my 1350 Graph Spey, and it worked really nice, fitted really well. So, yeah. I'm not aware, however, of any photo etch for this kit, which is a real shame. I must also say that you can get extra decals for this from Paddon House, which are really nice. They've got the flags on for both the 35 and the 1908 versions, and depth markers, so that's worth investing in. And if you go to Model Monkey, you can get yourself a 3D printed nameplate that is just the name in Germanic writing, which is quite nice as well. Okay, let's sum up. Schleswig-Holstein Battleship 1908 from Trumpeter in 1:350 scale. What's my first impressions? Okay, let's start off with packaging. Packaging is excellent. Trumpeter remain one of the leading manufacturers when it comes to packaging. Inside this box, we've got another little wooden box which has got our smaller parts in. And then after you've gone through the deck and the hull halves, there's another wooden cardboard inlay which is covering the rest of the sprues and stopping them moving around. So really, really nice. So there was no foam on any of these, there quite often is, but they didn't need it. And then you've got a corrugated box. Yeah, Trumpeter lead the way when it comes to packaging. Instructions, they're clear enough, definitely clear enough. You can see what you need to be doing when and where. I just think it's a little bizarre that they've got you pulling together sub-assemblies that you don't need at the same time and on the same page as actually the main building steps. And they're a bit all over the place. I wouldn't build it in the sequence that they've done. So I would renumber it, put it in some form of order as to how you want to build it, and then start again. But they will get you where you need to be, but I just wouldn't recommend following the sequences they've done, because you don't want these complicated masks lying around waiting a month or so while you catch up with the other bits. So yeah, that's that. Decals, pretty naff, really. I mean, what you've got is usable, but you're going to have to be trimming that pretty much to get it on. I worry that you've got to trim that because it's going in between details, so you might be best just painting that on anyway. Your nameplate should be okay, but where's the rest of them? You know, disappointing as always, the decals. Then we get onto the paint instructions. They're certainly wrong from the bits that I know, in terms of the colours that they're calling out. So I would do what I usually do with Trumpeters paint instructions and just recycle them. What you do is you open the box, you get your instructions out, you get your paint instructions out, and you immediately put them in the bin. Then do your own research and paint it correctly for the period you're doing. So I don't think the paint instructions are good at all. Then we move on to photo-etch. The photo-etch they've given you is nice. It's generic, but it's nicely done. It's fine, and shouldn't be too difficult to work with, and they cover all the major stuff. You've got all the railings you need, which is good. And then you've got one or two other nice to haves as well. So where you want a little bit more finesse, like on these supports for the little spot lamp gantries and platforms, we've got some nice detail there. So that's nice. However, the railings are so generic that they don't necessarily fit correctly, and we saw in the instructions you bending railings in between stanchions, which is fundamentally wrong. So you know, if you're having to shape the railings because they're not correct and cut them about and what have you, it does spoil the effect a little bit. However, if you were to go out and buy other 1/350 scale railings, you'd be in the same position. So you're going to use the ones that come in the kit at the end of the day. So that's it. Plastic parts, all moulded nicely. Nice and crisp, no major issues. The issues that you do have are the ones that you always get with elongation of portholes or scuttles, where you've got curves. You know, that's part of the course. We expect that. I mean, there are ways of getting around it, but that ups your part count and ups your expense. Yeah, all in all, no real issues with the plastic parts. All very functional, fits likely to be good. You know, the part count is such that it's simplified but not oversimplified, and they make up for the lower part count by doing a lot of slide moulding, which is an expensive way of moulding. So rather than doing lots and lots of pieces you've got to slab together like Mini Art might do if they were doing a ship, you've got fully formed parts which are ready to go once they're cleaned up, that have been slide moulded to add the details. So you know, it's just a different approach to doing it fundamentally. So yeah, all in all, no real issues with the plastic parts until we get to the hull sides. You know, it's really missing detail that should be there. I would certainly argue at 1/350 scale we should see plating detail. You get a 1/350 scale Titanic and it's got a complete smooth hull, would you not think, hang about, that's wrong? It's no different with this. You should, and I don't know, they don't depict it on the artwork, but that's wrong too. You should be able to see the rivets and the planking, and it looks a bit more toy-like because they've not done that, you know. And even if they'd just done it on the sides and not bothered with the underneath, that would be forgivable, you know. But everything above the boot line really should be in place there, I think. And there's no excuse not to do it in this day and age. There's lots of different ways of doing it. You know, a three-piece hull with a separate lower hull, you know, a bit like they used to do, and you'd be able to do that. So, yeah, it's okay. It's good even, but it's not amazing. So, yeah, okay. So, in summary, subject matter is awesome. It's nice to have a German ship that's got a bit of character, because unfortunately, and I don't know what it is about German designers, but there's a lot of sort of evolution and repetition, and they look the same. So, you know, you think Blücher, Hipper, Eugen, Bismarck, Tirpitz, they're a bit like Audis and VWs. They all look the same, and consequently, they're all very, very boring. Whereas this, you've got something to look at. You've got 3 funnels, you've got nice, eye-catching masts, you've got all these different shapes and forms. It's a beautiful, beautiful ship. It's not at all boring like a lot of German ship models can be. So that really appeals to me. And yeah, she's a good-looking ship. And even in a 35 format, she's a good-looking ship. So yeah, top marks for doing that. And I have to say, you've got to take your hat off to Trumpeter. They keep churning out these kits that nobody else is doing. You know, ship kits that some manufacturers are saying it's too costly, too time expensive, and you never sell enough. Well, Trumpeter managed to do it. They managed to make them, mass produce them, and sell them. So I don't believe that other manufacturers couldn't do it. And I know that other manufacturers would do it better. We have to say thank you to Trumpeter for doing this, but we know if someone else had done it, it would just be better. Even if it was Tamiya, even Tamiya would do it better than Trumpeter. But we've got it, and it's lovely, and you can build it, and it'll look right, even if the hull shape's inevitably probably wrong, and other mistakes that you'll find if you do lots of research into it. But we've got it, and we can't take anything away from that. Overall, the overall package is good. It's a nice little kit. I'm sure it'll build up really well. You've got enough detail there for most people, and it should look pretty awesome when it's done. Inevitably, because it's Trumpeter, we've got 1 or 2 things we'd like to have that we've not got. We'd like better decals, obviously, and we'd like a rigging plan. You know, if the artist that works for Trumpeter that's done this can get a rigging plan, Trumpeter can get a rigging plan. And even if they're not going to supply the materials, there's nothing stopping them printing a page on the thing saying rigging to be not included, but here's the plan. You know, give us a start. So as always, there's a few things that stop you saying, oh, this is a brilliant kit. But actually, it's a really nice kit of a really nice subject of a historically important ship, not just for the German Navy, but for the world. And I'm looking forward to building it at some point. So I bought this because I really want to build it. I've got some ship kits that I bought because I really want to review it, and you know, curious about it. It tends to be my Imperial Japanese Navy ships, but this, I bought it because I want it, because I want to build it, and I want to look at it when it's built. So a lovely ship, a lovely model, and you now know what you get in the box. So if you're wondering about it, I would go for the 1908 one rather than the 1935 one, unless you particularly want to do the one the later one. But you know, this is the one that's eye-catching for me. So I hope that was interesting. Thank you very, very much for joining me. I will see you soon on another First Impressions, and until then, you enjoy your modelling. Bye for now. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. It's free, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit my PayPal link in the text below. Every pound goes straight into the channel to keep the cameras rolling and to do more fun stuff for you to watch.